Captain Jae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of the Orang Earth's first true interstellar diplomatic vessel. The stars looked different from here, 3 light years from home. His hands rested on the smooth metal rail as he watched the alien ship approach. It glowed with blue-green lights and moved like nothing humans had built. "Captain, they're sending another message," said Communications Officer Song. Jae-ho nodded. "Put it on screen." The main screen filled with the face of a being that looked almost like a tall, thin human with pale blue skin and large eyes. The alien spoke, and the ship's computer translated. "Greetings, young ones of Earth. The Galactic Council welcomes you to the stars. We are pleased to guide your species in its first steps beyond your cradle world." Jae-ho kept his face calm, but he felt a small flame of anger inside. The aliens had been calling humans young ones since first contact 3 months ago. It felt like talking to a child. "Thank you, Ambassador Telios," Jae-ho said. "We look forward to docking with your station." The screen went dark. Jae-ho turned to his crew. "Well, let's not keep our elders waiting," he said with a small smile. "Lieutenant Lee, prepare the landing team." Lieutenant Tae-ho Lee stood straight. "Yes, Captain. The team is ready." The alien station orbited a small moon of Proxima Centauri. It was huge, at least 10 times the size of Earth's largest space station. The Orang looked tiny next to it. Jae-ho led his team through the docking tube. Dr. Hannah Park walked beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. As the ship's top xenobiologist, she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. "I can't believe we're here," she whispered, "meeting actual aliens." "Remember," Jae-ho said quietly, "they think we're the new kids. Let them think that for now." The airlock opened, and they stepped into the Galactic Council station. 6 different alien species waited for them. Some looked almost human, while others were very different. One floated in a tank of green liquid, and another looked like a tall insect. Ambassador Telios stepped forward. Up close, he was nearly 7 feet tall, with long fingers that had an extra joint. "Welcome, humans," he said. "You are the 57th species to join the Galactic Council in its 20,000 years of existence." Jae-ho bowed slightly. "We are honored." Dr. Park scanned the aliens with her handheld device, trying to look casual about it. Lieutenant Lee stood slightly behind Jae-ho, his hand near his side where his weapon would normally be, though they had come unarmed as a sign of peace. "Please, let us show you the station," Telios said. "We have prepared human-compatible quarters for your stay." As they walked through the station, the aliens explained their technology. Jae-ho noticed something strange. They talked about their tech as if it was the peak of advancement, but some of it didn't seem that impressive. The Earth team nodded politely. 3 days later, Dr. Park knocked on Jae-ho's door in the middle of the night. "Captain, I need to show you something," she said, her voice tight with excitement. In her lab, she pointed to her screen. "I've been studying the biological samples they gave us. Look at this." Jae-ho looked at the complex display of DNA patterns. "What am I seeing?" "These are genetic samples from 5 different council species," Hannah explained. "They all have these marker sequences." She pointed to a pattern that repeated. "This isn't natural evolution. These species were engineered, or at least modified." Jae-ho frowned. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. And there's more." She switched screens. "The metal in their ships. It's an alloy we found in ancient artifacts on Earth. Artifacts that are millions of years old." "That can't be right," Jae-ho said. "I double-checked. Whatever this metal is, it existed on Earth long before humans were supposed to have evolved." Lieutenant Lee, who had been quietly standing guard at the door, spoke up. "Captain, I've noticed something too. These elder races aren't comfortable with us. They seem afraid." Jae-ho had seen it too. The aliens watched humans carefully. When he had picked up and examined a decorative object yesterday, 3 aliens had moved forward suddenly. then stopped themselves. "There's something else," Jai-Ho said. He took out his tablet and showed them images of ancient cave paintings from Earth. "These symbols here. I saw them on their navigation controls, exactly the same." They looked at each other in silence. "What does it mean?" Tai-Ho asked. "I don't know," Jai-Ho said. "But I think the story they're telling us isn't the whole truth." The next day, Jai-Ho and his team joined the aliens for a formal dinner. The food had been specially prepared to be safe for humans. As they ate, Ambassador Telios asked questions about Earth. "Your species has advanced remarkably quickly," he said. "Most young races take twice as long to discover space travel." "We're curious by nature," Jai-Ho said. "And we've had our share of challenges that pushed us to innovate." "Tell me," Hannah said, trying to sound casual, "how old is the oldest civilization in the Council?" The insect-like alien, called Vrex, answered. "The Zoltar were the first to achieve space travel, about 50,000 years ago. All advanced civilization in our galaxy began with them." "Only 50,000?" Hannah asked before she could stop herself. The aliens looked at her curiously. "That is an immense span of time," Telios said. "How long did you think?" Hannah recovered quickly. "I'm sorry, I was just surprised. Human myths speak of much older times." "Myths are just stories," said Vrex. "Before 50,000 years ago, there was no advanced life in this galaxy. Our records are very clear." Jai-Ho changed the subject, but he saw Hannah exchange glances with Tai-Ho. Their myths spoke of civilizations millions of years old. The walls of Göbekli Tepe were over 11,000 years old. The Great Sphinx showed signs of water erosion from a time when the Sahara was wet, at least 10,000 years ago. And then there were the unexplained artifacts. Metal objects in coal seams millions of years old. The Antikythera mechanism. Tools found in layers of rock dated to before humans supposedly existed. If the oldest alien civilization was only 50,000 years old, who had made those things? Later that evening, Jai-Ho called an emergency meeting in their quarters. He had the ship's eye scanned for listening devices first. "We need to be careful what we say," he told his team. "I think we've been invited here so they can study us, not help us." "I agree," Hannah said. "They're hiding something. Today I saw their medical bay. The technology they use for genetic modification is almost exactly like technology we discovered in that underground chamber in South America last year." "The one dated to 200,000 years ago?" Tai-Ho asked. She nodded. "There's something else," Jai-Ho said. "I accessed their historical database. They have no records of any civilization before 50,000 years ago. Nothing. It's as if the galaxy was empty before then." "That's impossible," engineer Minji Kang said. She had joined them after noticing strange patterns in the alien technology. "We have evidence of intelligent activity on Earth going back millions of years." "Exactly," Jai-Ho said. "And I don't think it's a coincidence that they invited us to join the galactic community right after we started testing our first faster-than-light drive." The room was quiet as everyone considered the implications. "What do we do?" Tai-Ho finally asked. "We play along," Jai-Ho said. "We act like the young species they think we are. Meanwhile, Hannah, I want you to continue studying their biology. Minji, keep examining their technology. Look for connections to Earth artifacts." He looked at each of them. "I think we're missing a big piece of the puzzle, and I think the answer might be back on Earth, in all those ancient sites we could never explain." "You think humans are older than we thought?" Hannah asked. "I don't know," Jai-Ho said, "but I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, we're not the newcomers here. Maybe we're the ones who came first." Outside the window of their quarters, the stars shone coldly. Somewhere out there, Jai-Ho thought, the truth was waiting, and he was going to find it. 1 month after first contact, the Earth team had returned home. Captain Jae-Ho Kim stood in a vast underground chamber beneath the Gobi Desert. Cold air brushed against his face as he shined his light on the ancient walls. "How old did you say this place is?" he asked. Dr. Sun Woo Choi adjusted his glasses and pointed to markings on the wall. "At least 2 million years old, Captain. Maybe older." Jai-Ho shook his head in wonder. The chamber had been discovered 3 weeks ago by a mining team. Its walls were covered with strange symbols that matched those on the alien ships. "And you're sure about the translation?" Jai-Ho asked. "As sure as I can be," Sun Woo said. "These symbols match writing found in 23 other ancient sites around Earth. We always thought they were different systems, but after seeing the alien language, I realized they're all the same writing, just used in different ways." Engineer Minji Kang called from across the chamber. "Captain, you should see this." Jai-Ho and Sun Woo walked to where Minji stood before a metal panel in the wall. Unlike everything else in the chamber, it looked new, as if it had been made yesterday. "I found this behind some rocks," she said. "Watch what happens when I touch it." Minji placed her hand on the smooth metal surface. Nothing happened. "It doesn't work for everyone," she explained. "But watch this." She took Jai-Ho's hand and placed it on the panel. Immediately, the metal began to glow with soft blue light. Lines of light spread from his hand across the wall, forming patterns like a circuit board. Then, with a low hum, part of the wall slid open. "It only responds to certain people," Minji said. "People with a specific genetic pattern." Jai-Ho stared into the dark opening. "What's in there?" "Another chamber," Minji said, "with something I think you need to see." Diplomat Junho Yang was having a much less pleasant time. He sat across from 3 alien representatives in a meeting room at the UN building in New York. The aliens looked increasingly upset. "We have shared our knowledge freely," said Ambassador Telios. "Yet your people hold back. We know you have found ancient sites. We must examine them." Junho kept his face calm, though his heart beat faster. "As I've explained, those sites are important to our cultural heritage. We will share our findings in time." Vrex, the insect-like alien, made a clicking sound with its mandibles. "Your planet shows signs of advanced technology from long before your species evolved. This is impossible unless someone else visited Earth. We need answers." "Perhaps we simply evolved earlier than you thought," Junho suggested. The third alien, a reptilian being called Mraz, leaned forward. "The Council has discovered anomalies in human DNA, patterns that suggest engineering." Junho remembered his briefing with Captain Kim. "Don't let them know what we found." "Not yet, asterisk. I'll bring your concerns to my government," Junho said politely. "Now, about the trade agreement." But as he spoke, he could see the aliens weren't satisfied. Time was running out. In the underground chamber, Jiho stared at the object floating in the center of the hidden room. It was a perfect sphere, about 1 meter across, glowing with soft white light. It hovered in the air without any visible support. "What is it?" he asked. "We're not sure," Minji said, "but it's made of the same material as parts of the alien ships, and it's at least 2 million years old." "It's a map," Sun Woo said suddenly. He was looking at markings on the floor around the sphere. "These symbols, they're coordinates, star coordinates." Jai-Ho looked closer. "Can you read them?" "Some," Sun Woo said. "This one here points to the Orion system, and this one to Sirius. But they're marked as colony worlds." The 3 of them stood in silence, considering what this meant. "Captain," Minji said finally, "I have a theory. It's crazy, but what if humans didn't evolve on Earth? What if we came here a long time ago?" "From where?" Jai-Ho asked. "I don't know. But look at this." Minji pointed to a small device she had set up next to the sphere. "This is measuring energy patterns. The sphere is sending out a signal. A very weak signal, but it's going to specific points in space." "Calling someone?" Jai-Ho asked. "Or something," Minji said. "And it only activated when you touched the panel." It recognized your DNA. Jai-Ho's communicator beeped. He answered it to find Lieutenant Tai-Ho's face on the screen. "Captain, we have a problem," Tai-Ho said. "The aliens are demanding access to our ancient sites. They've threatened to cut off diplomatic relations if we refuse." "Stall them," Jai-Ho said. "We need more time." Dr. Hannah Park sat in her lab at the Beijing Research Center, staring at her screen in disbelief. She had been analyzing DNA samples from humans around the world, comparing them to the alien genetic patterns she had secretly copied. "This can't be right," she muttered. She ran the analysis again. The results were the same. Human DNA contained sequences that matched parts of all the alien species' DNA. But the human sequences were more complex, more complete. It was as if human DNA was the original, and the alien DNA contained only pieces of it. Her door opened, and a man walked in. Dr. Hannah recognized him. Dr. Yoon from the Historical Genetics Department. "Dr. Park," he said urgently, "you need to come with me right now. We found something in Mongolia." "What is it?" she asked, standing up. "A body," Dr. Yoon said, "perfectly preserved in ice. It looks human, but the dating, it's 3 million years old." Jai-Ho, Sunwoo, and Minji had moved to another chamber, following a passage that led deeper underground. This new room was vast, the size of a large airplane hangar. Their lights couldn't reach the far walls. "What is this place?" Jai-Ho wondered aloud. Minji aimed her scanner at the darkness. "There's power running through the walls. If I can find a control panel." Sunwoo had walked ahead, his light focused on markings on the floor. "Captain, these symbols. They're a story. They tell of people who came from the stars, a long time ago." "The Cedars," Jai-Ho said, remembering the term from ancient myths around the world. "Yes," Sunwoo said excitedly. "But according to this, they didn't just visit Earth. They made it their home after a great war in the stars. They hid here." Minji called out, "I found something." She stood before a small panel similar to the one that had opened the first hidden door. Jai-Ho walked over and placed his hand on it. The effect was immediate and stunning. The entire chamber lit up with bright white light. Around them, objects began to emerge from the floor. Display cases, control panels, and in the center, a massive holographic projection of the galaxy. Points of light glowed on the map, hundreds of them, spread across the stars. "Colony worlds," Sunwoo whispered. "Human colony worlds." The hologram zoomed in on one point, Earth. Then it showed images, massive ships descending from the sky, people building cities, then destruction, war, and finally, small groups going underground. The final image showed a DNA strand with a message written below it in the ancient language. "What does it say?" Jai-Ho asked. Sunwoo read slowly. "When the time comes, our children will remember. The key is in their blood." Minji's scanner beeped rapidly. "Captain, the sphere in the other room. Its signal just got much stronger. It's broadcasting to those points on the map." Jai-Ho stared at the hologram, at all those distant worlds marked as human colonies, worlds that had been settled millions of years ago, long before the aliens claimed any civilization existed. "We need to tell Diplomat Yang," he said finally. "The aliens aren't our elders. We are theirs." As if in response, the ground beneath them shook slightly. Something was waking up. Admiral Jun Seo Park stood before the World Security Council in Geneva. His uniform was perfectly pressed, but his face showed signs of stress. On the large screen behind him, satellite images showed alien ships in orbit around Earth. More ships than yesterday. "They're demanding access to all ancient sites," Jun Seo said. "And they've stopped pretending it's a friendly request." "How many ships?" asked the Chinese representative. 23, Jun Seo replied. "More arriving every day." The American representative leaned forward. "Can we defend ourselves if they attack?" Jun Seo hesitated. "Our weapons might damage their smaller ships. But they're larger vessels. We have nothing that could touch them. The room fell silent. Then Junseo added, but there might be something else that can. Scientist Yun Ji-yoon worked frantically in her lab at the International Genetic Research Center. Screens around her showed complex DNA patterns, and a strange metal device sat on her desk. It was a small cylinder covered in the same ancient symbols found in the underground chambers. Captain Ji-ho Kim entered the lab, followed by Dr. Hannah Park. "Tell me you have good news," Ji-ho said. Eun-ji looked up, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. "I found it," she said. "The message in our DNA." She pointed to one of the screens. "All human DNA contains these sequences that don't seem to do anything. We used to call it junk DNA, but it's not junk, it's code." "What kind of code?" Hannah asked. "Instructions," Eun-ji said. "When activated by the right signal, these sequences tell our bodies to produce specific proteins that can interact with the ancient technology. Like the panels that only respond to certain people," Ji-ho said. "Exactly. And there's more." Eun-ji picked up the metal cylinder. "This was found in Antarctica last week. When exposed to those proteins, it powers up and displays information." "What information?" Ji-ho asked. "Coordinates," Eun-ji said, "to something in orbit around Saturn." Historian Sung-ho Kang walked through the halls of the ancient site in Egypt. The chambers under the Sphinx had been opened for the first time in millions of years. Unlike the other sites, this one was perfectly preserved, with technology still functioning. He stopped before a wall covered in glowing symbols. As he watched, the symbols shifted, forming new patterns. They were responding to events happening now. Engineer Min-ji Kang worked at a control panel nearby. "The system is active," she said. "It's connecting to others around the world." Sung-ho nodded. "According to these records, humans ruled the stars for almost 1,000,000 years. Then something happened, a war with something else. Not the aliens we've met. Something worse." "What happened to us?" Min-ji asked. "We lost," Sung-ho said simply. "The few survivors hid on Earth and other worlds, erasing their technology, and eventually their memories. They became primitive, started over. But why hide the truth in our DNA? Why not just tell future generations?" "Because whatever they fought is still out there," Sung-ho said, "and it hunts advanced human civilizations." Min-ji's hands froze over the controls. "And we just sent a signal to the stars." In orbit, alien ships moved closer to Earth. On their command vessel, Ambassador Telios met with his council. "The humans are hiding something dangerous," he said. "Our scans show energy signatures activating all over their planet. Ancient technology far beyond their development level." "Beyond our level too," said Mraz, the reptilian. Telios nodded. "The council must be informed. If the humans possess elder technology, they could threaten the entire galactic order." "What do you suggest?" asked Frex. "We should neutralize their ancient sites before they fully activate," Telios said, "for the safety of all species." But not all the aliens agreed. A faction led by a blue-skinned female named Lyria opposed the plan. "We came in peace," she argued. "The humans have not threatened us. What if these sites hold knowledge that could benefit everyone?" "Too dangerous," Telios insisted. "We must act now." Diplomat Jun-ho Yang sat across from Lyria in a secure room at the UN. "Some of us believe you deserve a chance to explain," Lyria said, "but others are preparing to attack your ancient sites. They fear what you might unleash." "We found evidence that humans are much older than anyone thought," Jun-ho said carefully. "That we once had a vast civilization across the stars." Lyria's large eyes widened. "Impossible. Before the Zoltar, there was no advanced life." "What if the Zoltar were wrong?" Jun-ho asked. "Or what if they lied?" Before Lyria could answer, alarms blared. A voice came over the intercom. "Alien ships are moving into attack position. This is not a drill." Admiral Jun Seo Park rushed into the Global Defense Center beneath Mount Cheyenne. Screens showed alien ships descending toward key locations: the Gobi Desert, Egypt, Antarctica, and other ancient sites. All defense systems online, reported his second-in-command. But our weapons can barely touch their shields. Jun Seo picked up a secure phone. Captain Kim, are you ready? Jai-ho's voice came through. Almost. Yunji has activated the signal. We're waiting for a response. We don't have time, Jun Seo said. They're attacking now. On the screens, energy beams shot from the alien ships toward Earth. But before they could hit, something strange happened. Shields of shimmering energy appeared over each ancient site, deflecting the attacks. What is that? Jun Seo asked. No one had an answer. In the chamber beneath the Sphinx, Sung Ho and Minji watched as the ancient systems came fully alive. The entire room hummed with power. It's activating the defense network, Minji said in awe. These sites can protect themselves. Sung Ho pointed to new symbols appearing on the wall. It's more than that. Look. The symbols showed a map of the solar system. A point of light was moving, coming from beyond Saturn toward Earth. Something's coming, Sung Ho whispered. In space, near Saturn's rings, something massive awakened. A structure the size of a small moon, hidden for millions of years, began to glow with internal lights. Parts of it shifted and moved as ancient systems came online. Inside the International Space Station, astronauts watched in amazement as the massive object moved, accelerating toward Earth at impossible speed. Houston, the commander radioed, "You're not going to believe this." On Earth, Captain Ji-ho stood with Yunji and Hannah in the control room of the Gobi Desert facility. The sphere they had found was now floating in the center of the room, spinning rapidly and glowing brighter than ever. The signal has been received, Yunji said. Something is responding. Jai-ho's communicator beeped. It was Admiral Jun Seo. Captain, something huge just entered Earth orbit. It's not attacking, but it's doing something to the alien ships. Jai-ho looked at Hannah. Our ancestors. Before she could answer, the sphere pulsed with blinding light. When they could see again, a figure stood before them, a hologram of a human woman in strange clothing. She spoke in a language none of them knew, then paused as if adjusting something. When she spoke again, it was in modern English. Descendants, she said, the archive has received your awakening signal. Protocol restoration is now active. The defense platform has neutralized immediate threats. Who are you? Jai-ho asked. I am Sentinel Command Intelligence, guardian of Earth Sanctuary. The time has come for you to reclaim your heritage. The great enemy will soon detect your activation signal. What enemy? Hannah asked. The hologram's face grew solemn. The reason we hid. The reason we became primitive and forgot our past. They called themselves the Harvesters, a species that feeds on civilizations. We fought them for centuries before we lost. And now they'll come for us again, Jai-ho realized. Yes, the hologram said. But this time, you will not face them alone. The recall signal has been sent. Your lost colonies are awakening. Above them, in orbit, the massive ancient station began deploying smaller craft. On Earth, more facilities activated around the world. And far away, on distant worlds, humans who had taken different evolutionary paths began to remember who they truly were. The elders were returning. Commander Do-Gyun Kim stood on the bridge of the Asterisk, New Horizon Asterisk, Earth's first true warship. 1 month ago, it had been a simple space station. Then the ancient technology had transformed it, rebuilding it into something far more powerful. Through the view screen, Do-Hyun watched as the massive ancient station, now known as the Sentinel, orbited Earth. Smaller craft moved between it and the planet, carrying scientists and soldiers to and from the awakened facility. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Saturn Outpost, said his communications officer. Put it through, Do-Hyun ordered. The screen showed Captain Ji-ho Kim's face. He looked tired but excited. "Commander, the Saturn Ring facility is fully operational," Jai-Ho reported. "We've made contact with 3 colony worlds already. They're sending ships." "How long until they arrive?" Du-hyun asked. "The closest is 2 weeks away," Jai-Ho said. "But there's something else. The facility's sensors have detected something at the edge of our solar system. Something big." Do-hyun felt cold. "The harvesters?" "We don't know yet," Jai-Ho admitted. "But whatever it is, it's coming this way." On Earth, Ambassador Jae-yun Lee faced the gathered representatives of the Galactic Council. The meeting took place in the newly discovered chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, now transformed into a grand hall filled with softly glowing light. Most of the alien diplomats looked nervous. Only Lyria and a few others seemed curious rather than afraid. "For millions of years, you believed your species were the first advanced civilization in our galaxy," Jae-yun said. "Today, we will show you the truth." She nodded to Chief Scientist Young-ho Shin, who stood at a control panel. Young-ho pressed his hand to the surface, and the center of the room filled with a holographic display of the galaxy. "Humanity rose to the stars 5 million years ago," Jae-yun continued as the hologram showed ancient human ships spreading across the stars. "We built a federation of over 1,000 worlds. We seeded planets with life that would eventually evolve into your species." Gasps came from several aliens. Ambassador Telios stood up. "This is impossible. There is no evidence of such ancient civilization." "Because we hid it," Jae-yun said simply. "When the harvesters came, we fought for centuries. When we realized we could not win, we made a choice. We hid our technology, erased our history, and returned to primitive states. Some humans remained on Earth. Others were left on distant worlds, where they evolved differently. We became many species, forgetting we were once one." "Are you saying we are descended from humans?" Telios asked, his voice shaking. "In a way," Young-ho explained. "We used our own genetic material as a template, modified for different environments. That's why our DNA contains markers found in all your species." Lyria stepped forward. "If what you say is true, why reveal this now? Why awaken your ancient technology?" Jae-yun's face grew serious. "Because the harvesters are returning, and this time we must stand together." At a military base in North America, Admiral Jun-seo Park reviewed the defense plans with leaders from around the world. The room was tense but united. Old enemies now worked together against a greater threat. "The ancient defense network is now active on all continents," Jun-seo explained, pointing to a map. "The Sentinel Station has provided weapons that we're distributing globally." "What about the alien ships still in orbit?" asked the Russian general. "Most have agreed to help," Jun-seo said. "A few left, presumably to report to their governments." An aide rushed in and handed Jun-seo a tablet. He read it quickly, his face growing pale. "The deep space sensors have confirmed," he announced. "A massive fleet is approaching from the direction of Betelgeuse. Estimated arrival, 10 days. The colony ships won't arrive in time," someone said. Jun-seo stood straight. "Then we face them with what we have." In the ancient facility beneath Antarctica, scientist Yun Ji-yoon worked with a team of humans and aliens. The chamber was filled with strange equipment, and in the center stood a device that looked like a small sun contained in crystal. "The genetic key is working," Yun-ji told historian Sung-ho Kang, who was studying symbols on the walls. "More people are connecting to the old technology every day." "It's remarkable," Sung-ho said. "According to these records, only about 10% of modern humans carry the full activation sequence. But that's still millions of people." Yun-ji nodded. "The Sentinel Eye says our ancestors designed it that way. If too many people could access the technology at once, the harvesters might have detected it." "What does this device do?" asked Lyria, who had joined their research team. "It's a communication array," Yun-ji explained. "It can send messages faster than light, without the need for relays. We're using it to coordinate with the colony worlds." Lyria touched her own face thoughtfully. If humans created my species, does that make you our parents? Sung-Ho smiled. More like very distant cousins. We all evolved along different paths for millions of years. An alarm sounded. The crystal device pulsed brightly. What's happening? Lyria asked. Yunji checked the controls. We're receiving a new signal. It's coming from beyond our galaxy. Commander Do-hyun's ship patrolled the edge of the solar system alongside 20 alien vessels that had chosen to stand with Earth. The fleet was small but equipped with weapons based on the ancient human technology. Commander called his sensor officer. We're detecting a spatial distortion ahead. Do-hyun tensed. The harvesters? No, sir. The energy signature doesn't match what the Sentinel described. This is different. The view screen showed empty space, then a flash of light. A ship appeared, larger than any they had seen before, but sleek and beautiful, with lines that somehow felt familiar. We're being hailed, reported the communications officer. Do-hyun nodded. On screen, the image showed a being that looked almost human, but taller, with slightly larger eyes and silver-toned skin. Greetings, children of Earth, the being said in perfect English. I am High Commander Sarai of the Transcended. We received your awakening signal. Who are you? Do-hyun asked carefully. We are what some of your people chose to become, Sarai explained. 5 million years ago, when the war with the harvesters began, humanity split into 3 groups. Those who fought directly, those who hid on planets like Earth, and those who chose to leave this galaxy entirely to evolve beyond physical limitations. Do-hyun could hardly believe it. You're human. We were, Sarai said. Now we are what humans might become in another million years. We have watched from afar, waiting for the day our earthbound family would remember their past. That day has come. 1 week later, Ambassador Jae-yun stood before the full Galactic Council, now assembled in a grand chamber aboard the Sentinel station. Representatives from 57 species looked on as she spoke. The harvesters will reach our solar system in 3 days, she said, but we are no longer alone. Behind her, screens showed fleets of ships arriving. The colony vessels from nearby stars, more ships from the Transcended, and now vessels from almost every species in the Council. For too long, we forgot our common origin, Jae-yun continued. We saw each other as different, as competitors. Now we know the truth. Many of us share a common ancestry, and all of us share a common threat. She raised her hand, and a holographic document appeared before each representative. This is the new Charter of United Species, she explained. Not a hierarchy with elders ruling the young, but a true alliance of equals. Humans may have come first, but we all evolved along our own paths. We all have something to contribute. Ambassador Telios, who had once threatened Earth, now stood with her. The Council recognizes humanity's ancient legacy, he said formally. But more importantly, we recognize that our future must be shared. The Charter is approved. As the representatives signaled their agreement, the document glowed brighter. A new alliance was born, just in time to face an ancient enemy. On the bridge of the flagship *Remembrance*, Captain Jae-ho Kim stood with Commander Do-hyun. Through the view screen, they could see hundreds of ships gathered from across the galaxy, the largest fleet ever assembled. Did you ever imagine this when we first met the aliens? Do-hyun asked. Jae-ho shook his head. Never. I thought we were the newcomers, the young species finding our place. Instead, we were the elders all along, Do-hyun said. We just forgot. A signal came through. It was Admiral Jun-seo from Earth Command. The Harvester fleet has been detected crossing Neptune's orbit, he reported. All ships, battle stations. The fate of all our species hangs in the balance. Jae-ho looked out at the vast fleet, ships designed by humans, aliens, and the Transcended, all united for the first time in 5 million years. We lost once, he said quietly. We won't lose again. the ancient knowledge had awakened.